Foreign Friends ara existeix des de fa 2 anys com a associació oficial, amb la seu legal a la ciutat Ludwigsburg, Alemanya, que es pot veure darrere meu aquí. El nostre objectiu és ser ambaixadors de Catalunya, de la seva història, la seva cultura i, sobretot, del seu dret a decidir sobre el seu futur. Per això, fem part del Consell per la República Catalana. Ahir, a l'Assemblea General de Foreign Friends, es va poder veure que aquest objectiu, aquest desig, és molt vigent. De fet, està creixent més que mai. I per això volem treballar amb vostès, molt honorable president i honorable conseller, braç a braç cap a la realització d'aquests objectius que compartim a l'entorn internacional. Estem molt feliços que vostès siguin aquí amb nosaltres per representar-nos les seves idees per al camí que volem anar tots junts. Per això, dono la paraula al meu col·lega Mike Easterbrook, vicepresident de Foreign Friends, que serà avui a la nit també el coordinador de la sessió. Doncs, benvinguts, benvingudes a tothom, especialment al president i al conseller. Mike, please.
Gracias, Thomas. So welcome everyone. Thomas speaks very good Catalan. Unfortunately, I don't. And so for this session, we will be trying to conduct it as much as possible in English, but una mica català is perfectly okay as well, of course. So just to let you know the kind of format. Obviously, Thomas has just introduced our organization, Foreign Friends, and how honored we are to have our special guest tonight. How we will run this is, first of all, we will have an initial question for the Honorable Conseller Puigneró. He will answer that in 5-10 minutes. And then we will have an initial question for Molt Honorable President Beaudemon, and the same format. And then after that, we will then open up for questions from anyone. What I'd ask, obviously, we've got a big group on here, so we would like your questions. If I could ask you to use the chat function and to write your questions down. Please, can I ask you to keep them as short as possible and to the point as much as possible. We will sort of reject any essays, but if we could have those questions there, when the chance comes to do those questions, we will then ask you to, or I will prompt you to ask your question. Okay, so hopefully that's nice and clear. So once again, thank you very much and welcome Carles Beaudemon and Jordi Puigneró. I'm sure neither need any real introduction, but just in case, Carles Beaudemon, the 130th president of Catalonia, and a member of the European Parliament, currently in exile in Belgium, and Jordi Puigneró, who is the Minister of Digital Policy and Public Administration, and in particular known for his work on the thought leadership, really, on the digital republic. So if we can get started, I'd like to ask Conseller Puigneró, first of all, the first question. So in your book, El Cinquè Poder, la República Digital a les teves mans, you argue that Catalans have a unique opportunity to imagine and build a Catalonia that will be digital and in the form of a republic. What makes you optimistic that the digital republic of Catalonia can become a reality in a non-virtual world? So if I can hand over to Jordi, please.
Well, first of all, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I don't know whether I have to do my speech and answers in English or I can do them in Catalan. I have no problem in both of them. But obviously the questions at the end I will answer in the language that you asked me. I don't know whether you prefer that I do now my speech in English or this first 5-minute speech or in Catalan.
Sí, posible en inglés, pero una mica catalán if you need, there's no problem.
Okay. Well, it's a very good question, actually, the one you've asked me. I firmly believe that obviously we're living right now in a digital revolution, which is changing everything. It's changing the world. Actually, the World Economic Forum establishes in a recent report that humanity is facing 3 big objectives in the years to come. One is regarding immigration, all the immigration processes we've seen and that we are not dealing with them and where we are leaving people to die, for example, in the Mediterranean, and this is a shame for European policies. Second one is the climate change, and we're seeing how obviously we cannot continue to destroying the world in terms of our environment, and so we need to act, not only to speak about it. And third, it's the actual digital transformation we are seeing in everything regarding our society. So it means that this digital revolution exists. It's happening right now. It's we've seen other technological revolutions in the past, and this the one we're having right now will determine how nations, how societies will be in the future, for sure. And it means that in these changes we have an opportunity to be able to build, I think, what should be a nation of the 21st century. We know right now that the Industrial Revolution, which really changed the world 200 years ago, we've seen how the nations that really act and were actually really did the Industrial Revolution, for the next 200 years, they actually lead world economies and actually lead the world. Those nations like, United Kingdom, Germany, United States, Japan, they are all today what they are, thanks obviously to that industrial revolution we lived 200 years ago. So now we are in another opportunity in which this digital revolution will be as important or more as the one we've seen over the past 200 years. It means that we have an opportunity. And internet, which is at the basis of this revolution, has already changed a lot of things. It has changed, for example, it's changing the way we work, it's changing the industry, it's changing the services, it's changing the way we communicate with each other. And in my opinion, it will also, the next thing it will change will also be how we govern ourselves. The governance, democracy, how we understand power, and also how we understand how we empower citizens. For the first time in the history of humanity, we have these tools called smartphones that we all of us have in our pockets. That they connect us to the world and to each other at 24 hours a day. It means that we have the most power any human has had in its pocket in its history, in the human's history. And the only thing we have to do, obviously, is that this empowerment of our citizens to be used in a proper way. And I think that since in my book, I speak about the importance of how power has been used in the past, and thanks that we've seen distribution of power over the past 200 years in a way that the three classical powers, executive power, the judicial power, and the legislative power, has been a way of giving or not centralizing power to a single person, as maybe kings had in the past, or even, you know, political leaders of that we've always thought, and we have always seen that it's not good to have the power in only one hand. Distribution of power is good. We've seen how the press has become a fourth power. In my opinion, we will see that citizens have the opportunity to be the fifth power. Empowered citizens, digitally empowered citizens, can be the fifth power of society, which means that this is, for example, how we were able to do something like the 1st of October referendum. 1st of October referendum was really a citizen empowerment act that permitted Catalonia, against a state and against the force of a state, against the brutal force of a state, be able to do a referendum. So we had the chance, thanks to the citizens, obviously also thanks to the government and to other institutions, but I think that on the most, thanks to the empowered citizens, to be able to vote. We had the chance to be able to ask to the citizens how Catalonia has to be in the future. So we were able to take a decision, but we have not been able yet to implement that decision. That is, that decision to become independent. Now it's the time to be able to build this republic. And it's obvious that the way states has been built or have been built in the past has been through controlling the physical territory. No, when you control the physical territory, and you can say you control the physical territory, then you have a recognition from other states that you are sovereign over your territory. Obviously, that means using, again, the force, using, I would say, the violence to do that. No? And this is an option that the Catalan government and the Catalans, obviously, at the moment, we have said that we don't want to use, because we want to become independent by democratic means, by civil means. And obviously, in Europe, we believe that self-determination, the self-determination right should be respected in that means, so that we didn't have to use the force to become independent. Because then, if that's not the way, we will be saying that the only way to become independent in the world is by using the force. And we have to show that there are other ways of becoming independent. And that's the Catalan way of trying to become independent, by democratic means, by civil means. That means that to be able to build this digital republic, and I think that now we have the chance to do it. I've been to Estonia many times over the past years. Estonia is a very advanced digital country. They became independent from the Russians in the beginning of the 90s. And when I asked the ex-prime minister, former prime minister of Estonia, which was one of the fathers of the actual digital transformation of Estonia over these past years, and I asked him, he has actually written the prologue of my book. He says, when I asked him, why are you building a digital republic if you are already a republic? No? You are already an independent state. Why are you building a digital republic? And he answered me very clearly, and he said that, Estonia has had in the past 5 Russian invasions in its history. And he was telling me that the probability that there's a 6th one, it's very high. So what we're doing is we are preparing ourselves for this when this happens. Because when it happens, and when we have we will not be able to stop the Russian troops, when they will be on the streets controlling the physical territory, we would like to be able to still govern our people. We still have the governance over the people. Because actually, a nation, if you look at it in the dictionary of what a nation is, either the Oxford Dictionary or the Catalan Dictionary, a nation is a community of people that has links of language, history, culture. It doesn't say in this definition of nation that these people must live in a specific territory. It doesn't speak about the territory. So the nation is the people connected to each other. So to build a digital nation, we don't need the physical territory. We only need to build the infrastructures and the structures in this new digital era. So when I'm talking about building a digital republic, this is something we need to do anyway, which means that we need to prepare our nation for this digital world in order to be connected to each other, to have the new structures that define the nations of the future. If you see now, we all use mobile phones for paying, for even for health, for building any other or for relating to any actual governance structures, which means it's possible to build a digital state using digital infrastructures. And for doing that, we have the Spanish Constitution in any of its laws. It talks about these things. So we have a very open field to work on building on how, instead of thinking on how were nations in the past and building a state of the 19th century, trying to build a state of the 21st century, which means that it is possible in that way to do it digitally. And this is why the Catalan government, and also from the Consell de la República, we are working on defining all those digital infrastructures to preserve the Catalan nation in this 21st century.
Perfecto, gracias, gracias. Very interesting, I think, for everyone. Hopefully it will stimulate a few questions as well. We're getting a few coming in, but please start to do those. So if we could turn to El Presidente for the first question, please. 1 second. So, El Presidente, welcome and thank you very much for coming. So the opening question for you is, Vicent Patal said of your book, Me explico de la investidura a l'exili, reading the book, the feeling that in 2017 there was a huge and incomparable leap forward, which does not seem to be able to go backwards, is very reinforced. In the current climate, what do you believe can be the next big leap forward for the independence movement? Gales.
You have to unmute the president.
Let's see.
Let me see. He is here.
Okay.
Ah, there we go.
Okay.
Gracias. Gracias.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, for organizing this very, very interesting event. It's a pleasure, as an honor for me to take part of this panel. I want to say hello, first of all, to Minister Puigneró and to all of you. Well, it's not an easy question to answer, because we are fighting not only for independence, but also for our fundamental rights. And we didn't expect to fight for it, because we live in European Union and we expected that fundamental rights were preserved if not by the Spanish state, by the European Union. So what we need to achieve our goal, or what could be the next big step towards the full independence of Catalonia? First of all, we need to win the elections. The Catalan parties in favor of independence needs to win clearly the next Catalan elections, initially on 14th of February. Even more, we need to have a support higher than 50%. That is the main first step we need to achieve, because that could be a very important political sign for the rest of Europe, the rest of the world. One of the main issues we have now when we meet other politicians and other political parties in Europe or across the world is to answer the question, are you the majority? We say, yes, of course, we are the majority. That is obvious. But in terms of the standards, when the standards that rules on the referendum cases, we need to show clearly we are more than 50%. And that is absolutely possible in next Catalan elections. So the second step is, well, if we are more than 50% and the Catalan political parties in favor of independence will renew the majority on Catalan parliament, what's next? Well, we believe, my opinion, and also is the opinion shared by the Consell Català per la República, is that we must do a different politics than we has done till today. Because to reach that support means must have a political mean, and not only from the institutions, but for the whole society. It's the moment when we need to restart well, a strategy, a new strategy. It's not exactly the new strategy because the strategy is the same, but a new strategical plan, if I may say, a strategical plan to manage that we called intelligent or smart confrontation with such powerful state as is Spain. So in order to have a success, to win that next confrontation with the Spanish state, we need to rebuild our political unity among political parties. That is a very important issue now. We must be clear on this. Without unity, without a strategic unity, it's impossible to defeat that huge and powerful state. It's not possible. For that is the moment to say clearly to all the political parties that will run for the next elections, if they are or not ready or available to do all the efforts in order to find a new big strategic political strategy in order to achieve our goal we decide in the referendum on the 1st of October. That is very important for us. In this strategy, in this plan, the role of the Consell per la República de Catalunya is so important because I suppose all of you know, we are preparing. Well, it's not exactly a manifesto; it's a kind of book called Preparem-nos. We will present the main elements of that document, and next weekend, when we meet all the Catalan representatives of our assembly, and we will share also to the Catalan society the main elements of that new strategy to continue fighting and to finally arrive to the end of our strategy in order to have a full independent Catalan Republic. So we will insist as the Consell per la República to the rest of the political parties, civic organizations, and Catalan society in general as a whole, the need to work together and to join a table or framework we call the Table of Allies to discuss how we can act in that several fronts we have in front, in Madrid, in Europe, in Catalonia, in the rest of the world. We need to renew our unity. And if we have success in all of these attempts or these projects, is the moment to start a new, I don't want to call a momentum, but it's obvious that if we succeed to have the majority in parliament, the majority in the ballot boxes, the political unity is the moment to call again Catalan society and to call not only Spanish authorities, but also European authorities, and to ask clearly, what do you want to do with that political problem? Because we are determined, we want to continue that path until the end. And in this occasion, we will not expect the answer of not expect the answer. We will be very, very exigent in front of the Spanish authorities, and probably the moment when an international or an European mediation will be needed. So that is the big next steps in that path to achieve the Catalan independence.
Okay, thank you very much, President, and hopefully foreign friends can play their part in some of that. Okay, so I'd like to call on the first question from, and it's Alison Tremblay. Please go ahead. And if you could say who you're addressing it to and speak.
Sí. Bona tarda, President i Conseller. This is a question for President. I'm the coordinator for Foreign Friends of Catalonia in the United States. As you know, we have just had a severe test of our American democracy with the presidential election. And in large part, we have survived because our courts and our Supreme Court would not overrule the rights of voters. My question is, President, how can you do politics as normal when even the highest courts in Europe, such as in the cases of Junqueras or Otegi, can't restrain the very illegal authoritarian abuses of the Spanish courts?
Well, it's not the case of Otegi, because it's the opposite. In the case of Otegi's case was the Spanish justice who denied and undermined the power of the European Court of Human Rights. So I think that the best threat, the main threat against democracy, not only for Catalans, but for all European citizens, is that the juridical power of one state is not respecting the decisions of the Court of European Justice or the human rights. That's the case of Spain. And it's a serious issue, I insist, not only for Catalans, for Europeans. Yeah. Europeans. I still believe in this European justice, because we are here now. I'm in the European Parliament. I'm free. I have my European passport, a blue one, and well, that is thanks to European Union, to the Schengen Agreement, and for, the European Court of Justice. So we need to continue fighting in such tribunals, which are independent from the political power, clearly independent. It's not the case in Spain. And one of my hopes is that the last decision of the European Council and the European Commission, how the states or how the European Union must manage that special recovery fund to help states fighting against the crisis, to link economical help, economical funds to the rule of law. Right. The first time when European Union is saying clearly there is a link between the efforts made by European citizens and the states who receive a very big amounts of money, and Spain is one of the biggest beneficiaries of the European money. When European Union are saying this, it's thinking on Poland and Hungary, but Spain is not so far yet from these countries. We start to hear some voices saying, "What about Spain? What about Spain? What's going on now in Spain?" So yeah, it's a problem in the short term, but is opportunity for the long term, because that confirms we are right to defend the Catalan Republic, because the Spanish democracy is not on the frame of the standard European democracies.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Alison. And the next question we have is from Gerber van der Graaf, and this is to H.C. Puigneró.
Hello, good evening. I already did read about the e-Republic independence of the government before the elections of 21st of December. And so far, we haven't noticed very few or anything during the 3 years of the government, during the last 3 years. So my question is, has already something been realized about the electronic republic, or and when can we expect some results from it? And especially my question about the Catalan banking, Catalan bank, and eventually the blockchain currency, Catalan currency.
Thank you.
Well, I hope I understood the question, because the sound is not good, but I think I understood the question, why I have heard the question. Obviously, we've started with this project from the first day of this mandate, And we've had three things clear. I think the basics of a digital republic are, first of all, to have a well-connected country. That means that the infrastructures that we have in Catalonia, telecom infrastructures, they reach every citizen wherever they live. That is, citizens obviously living in Barcelona, but also citizens living in the mountains, in the Pyrenees, or in Terres de l'Ebre. We need that every single citizen in Catalonia has equal opportunities on accessing internet and accessing these digital technologies. That's the first thing we've been working on. So it means we've deployed a neutral fiber glass infrastructure, which has arrived to every single county capital of Catalonia, and that has been an achievement in these 3 years. That's the basics. If we don't have a fully connected society, citizens are not fully, it is impossible to build a digital republic on top. The second issue is regarding cybersecurity. Obviously, if we want our citizens to trust this new digital media, we need to feel them secure. If you don't feel secure in a media, if you, let's say in the physical world, if you are in the streets and you are robbed or somebody's attacking you, or you are in a war, obviously when security is not guaranteed, it is very difficult that you can actually, obviously, that is, feel that that you can do anything else. It means you have to work for your security. It means that it was very important for us to have an infrastructure, and we've created the Cybersecurity Catalan Agency in these past 3 years, which is an agency which protects our infrastructures, our digital infrastructures, from cyber attacks that we suffer, like any other country suffer in the world. I will put you one example how important this is. In the UK, they 2 years ago they suffered a very important cyber attack in which the healthcare system stopped working. People that were going to hospitals, they couldn't be treated because the doctors couldn't actually access the medical records of the citizens. That means that they couldn't be treated properly. Imagine that the healthcare system of a nation is connected. It means that if it's not protected, can be vulnerable. That is a very basic system of a country. It means that we need a cybersecurity agency. We've created this, so now we have this instrument. Another issue in which we have been working on, which is very important for building this digital republic, is digital identity. If we cannot provide a digital identity to our citizens, which means that when they are in the internet, they can be identified by themselves. We've thought that the best way to do that was what we call a self-sovereignty digital identity based on blockchain, which means that the citizens, the identity of the citizens, it's owned by the citizens, not by the state, and not by any big corporation. It's owned by the citizens. It's another very important issue in which we are working and building. Unfortunately, the Spanish state, to stop us from building this digital sovereignty identity, approved a decree, a royal decree, last October for banning this initiative in Spain, so that blockchain cannot be used in Spain for these purposes. Imagine, the European Union is actually funding today projects like this in the European Union, that is self-sovereignty identities using blockchain and other issues using blockchain. That now there is a country in Europe that is forbidding using this technology in Spain. So the same way President Beaudemon can go anywhere in Europe without being detained, can go to any country except in Spain, because probably it would be detained. In terms of blockchain, we have a country in Europe that is banning and forbidding using that the administrations cannot use blockchain for innovation in issues like, for example, in terms of identity. These are three, for example, basics in which we have been working. I could be talking for an hour. I actually have a conference which lasts an hour in which I talk about other issues, how we are building or how we can build also a digital healthcare system, how we can build, for example, having a banking, digital banking system. In the end, what is a republic? What is a state? It's something which provides services to the citizens. And these services today can be operated and given digitally, which means we can build them. It's just a matter that they let us do it. I think that most of them we are doing it. Some of them we are seeing that the Spanish state that was living in the analog world now is seeing that they were laughing at this at the beginning. They were laughing. They were thinking that this digital republic was something like nonsense. But now, now they are seeing that this is a serious proposal that we are putting on the table, that they will have a lot of difficulties on trying to ban everything that we do, because the Spanish constitution doesn't talk about internet, doesn't talk about cybersecurity, doesn't talk about anything regarding this new digital revolution. So that means we have an opportunity. And Catalans, we have always liked to be at the forefront of the innovation, and also now at the forefront of how nations will be governed in this 21st century.
Thank you, gracias. Excellent, very interesting. So could Marcus, you should be unmuted if you can ask your question, please.
Okay, thanks a lot. I hope that you can hear me. My question is, I am a member of the German Partei, so the party of Martin Sonneborn, and I was very pleased when I saw him that he was assisting you, Mr. President. And my question is are there any other groups or initiatives in the European Parliament that also are supporting you, and how can we maybe influence these groups, initiatives, or maybe parties or fractions even more? How can we push them, especially in the next European elections?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, Martin has done a very, very good job for us. During all that months we are not able to take our seat. Yes, there is a all parties friendship group with several MEPs from several countries and from all families, political families groups. So if Martin is interested to join us, he will be very welcome. Is a very interesting group that joins not only current members of the European Parliament, but also former members. And among them, there is, well, prominent politicians there supporting us. And it works very well in order to share the Catalan case on political level or political groups in well, across Europe, in fact. So yes, if Martin can join us, he will be very, very welcomed.
Okay, I hope that I can give some influence, but I guess I'm too weak for that. But I will try.
I will ask Martin.
Okay.
Ask.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I think we have another question for Mr. President from Evelyn. Would you like to ask your question? Evelyn?
Yes, 1 second. I'm trying to find it because I made a few questions.
Oh, would you like me to ask it?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Let me 1 second.
It's an uncomfortable one.
To Mr. Beaudemon, how do you see the political panorama in regard to possible accords with other political parties after February the 14th, taking into account the situation with Esquerra?
As I said before, our objective is to win the next elections, and obviously the consequence of the victory of the pro-independence movements in the ballot boxes is to join, to find an agreement to build a new government. That is our priority. So it's obvious the situation now is far to be optimistic. But we have no other option, no other choice to work very hard to do the best of us in order to find a very good agreement among the Catalan parties. It's not only an opportunity agreement only for that moment in order to only share the power. No, we must work very hard, I insist on this, to renew our alliance. Because if not, there is no way for Catalan independence. Our principle, our main objective is work for Catalan independence. And there is no excuses for achieving a political agreement between Esquerra Republicana, Junts per Catalunya, and la CUP. That means a lot of things, and probably the things must be changed. For example, the relation the Catalan for independence movement with Madrid must be, well, reanalyzed and to put service of the strategy for independence. But it's our duty. It's our duty to find an agreement to restore the confidence and to bring to the Catalan citizens a sign that we listen, we understand the message come from the ballot boxes, saying, please be united, go ahead for the Catalan Republic, and let apart the problems, the typical problems among the political parties, and have clear the main objective, which is Catalonia. It's not our parties.
Yeah, but
depends on the results, of course.
Yeah, but do you understand that we as voters, we have our doubts as well, seeing the relation that you all have? I mean, I think that with right, we can doubt that Esquerra Republicana, do they really want the independence, or are they poorly elect? Because, you know, I think you understand that we're very confused with all these political situation now, after we've done so much as people.
You are right. For this, the next elections could be very, very important in order to clarify, in order to bring to each party the exactly weight in that strategy. We explained clearly we want to continue exactly the same path we start in the 1st of October referendum. That is our proposal. Okay. So if we win the elections, I'm very confident the majority of the rest of the Catalan political parties will follow that path. But we need to win.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've got time for one more question. Sarah Dubois would like to ask a question of Conseller Puigneró.
Hola, bona tarda. Soc la Sara des de Reus, encara que el cognom no sembli massa català. I'm going to ask to talk in English. I'm a computer engineer, and I have noticed, because of this crisis that we are living around the world, but especially in Catalonia, that I don't know how to say in English, but has appeared a digital gap. Not all the citizens have the same opportunities to arrive to this digital environment that we will have to continue from now until the end. So do you have, or do you think which politics we could do to solve this problem? Because I know it's not easy, but because of the crisis, the future is digital. Gràcies per la seva tasca, tant conseller com president.
Sí.
Moltes gràcies. És una pregunta molt pertinent i molt important. It's a very important question, actually. I think we are facing, I would say, 4 different gaps, digital gaps. One is the territorial gap. For example, when you have people in Catalonia living in some places in which not even connectivity arrives, they don't even have the choice. So it means the first thing you need to do is to close the territorial gap. That is, at least have the possibility of access this infrastructure. This is why we've been working very hard these past 3 years in getting better the digital infrastructures around Catalonia. And we haven't finished. And also, obviously, these infrastructures are being built on a neutral basis. That is, they are not owned by any operator. They are owned by Generalitat, but they are used by the operators, which means that gives also makes us less dependent on big Spanish operators. Okay, so that's one of the gaps we need to close down. The second gap for me, it's very important, is the gender gap. We are seeing that in this digital world, there are very few women involved. And I want to explain the importance of that, and that we need to increase more women being computer engineering like you. Because this digital revolution is defining how the world will be. The apps are defining how are we going to pay, how will we communicate, how our healthcare system will be addressing. And if it's only done by men, if the applications are only done by men, there will only be the men's vision on this new redefining of the world. I always tell my daughter, she likes a lot using Instagram. No? She's 16 years old and she follows a lot of Instagrammers. No? And she sometimes tells me, "Oh, I'd like to be an Instagrammer." No? And I answer her and I say, more important than being an Instagrammer is to be the future woman that defines the future Instagram. That has more value than just being an Instagrammer. Okay, that means that at least in Catalonia, the figures we have of women working on the IT sector right now, it's only around 30%, and only 10% working on IT issues, right? Because the other 20% is women working on the IT sector, but maybe working on the human resources department or in other issues. Yeah? So that we need to also be better in this, to close this gap as well, the gender gap. The other gap is the social gap. That is the people that have difficulties for the social economics. That is poor people, and people that they maybe live in Barcelona, but because they cannot pay the bills, they have difficulties on accessing, not only accessing, but also in being able to be the capacity of having digital competencies for the families and for the kids. That is, we have a specific politics for that as well. And finally, it's the actual, we could call the elderly gap. No? They say that all people have more difficulties on using these technologies. So we need also to have specific programs on helping all people to be at least to have the chance of, because young people, they are digitally native. They are already getting born with this revolution. So they don't want to have these difficulties. Maybe on the actual issues of education, we need to also transform and change how the education system, and we are doing so, to prepare our kids for the jobs of the future. But in some way, when we talk about the gap, I think there are many gaps we need to cover. And at least from the Catalan government, we know which are the gaps. We have some politics, specific politics for each of these gaps. We need to do more, I have to admit, we need to do more, and to do it faster and do it quicker, because otherwise we will lose this race for competitivity, which is very strong and very hard right now around the world.
Gracias.
Gracias, gracias. Gracias, President Beaudemon, and gracias, Conseller Puigneró. Molt bé. So thank you also to everyone for asking questions, and I apologize, we obviously can't get through all of the questions that people posted, but I think the selection we had was a good selection, so thank you very much, and I hope you all found it as interesting as certainly I did. So if I can hand over to Thomas now, just to briefly close out. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, for leading the discussion. Ara en català, jo crec que ha estat un esdeveniment molt especial per a nosaltres, un highlight, jo crec, en la història de Foreign Friends. Moltíssimes gràcies a vostè, molt honorable president, honorable conseller, per compartir les seves idees per al futur de Catalunya amb nosaltres. Jo crec que això ha donat un boost per a les activitats de Foreign Friends, ho diria. Jo crec que el moment és el nostre. Tots junts construïm amb vostès, president, conseller, amb el Consell per a la República Catalana, un futur millor per a Catalunya. Un futur en plena llibertat, sense repressió. Una societat democràtica oberta, on cadascú que sent català és de debò català. Moltíssimes gràcies, president, conseller. Jo crec que a partir d'avui, jo sé, farem moltíssimes coses com aquesta cosa avui, tots junts, amb vostès, amb el Consell i amb tota la gent de la llibertat. Doncs apa, visca, com sempre, Catalunya. Catalunya lliure, visca. Bona nit a tothom. Moltíssimes gràcies. Adeu.
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 Adeu, everyone. Gracias.